Are these degrees being regulated under any laws in Pakistan?
We have regulators. Regulators are Pakistan Bar Council and HEC, which control the mushroom growth of law colleges sometimes.
How the legal education was being regulated before 2018 when that judgment was not in place?
Unfortunately, I have to say, this judgment was violated. This judgment was flouted, and sometimes this judgment was not acted upon. Educational institutions which were imparting substandard legal education. Very sorry to say it, that almost all institutions are now again working. Legal education is concerned with the lawyers and concerned with the judges also.
The unacceptable behavior that is being portrayed in the society by lawyers. Do you really think that the training is the need of an hour?
I couldn't agree more. We all need to be trained on ethics. Upbringing is not being done, they are not being trained, so fill in this gap. And then there is a gap between the theory and the practical aspects.
Hello and Assalamu Alaikum. My name is Anik Khatana and this is your own show, Legal Opinion. In this show, we are going to be inviting people who are going to provide us legal opinions related to legal issues. The topic we are going to discuss today is very closer to my heart, which is legal education in Pakistan and its development. In order to discuss this topic today, we have Mr. Zafar Kalanori. Mr. Zafar Kalanori is a senior Supreme Court lawyer and he has worked a lot in order to raise the standard of bar and legal education in Pakistan. So we are going to discuss this topic with him in detail. Sir, welcome to the show.
It's a pleasure.
So first of all, I would like to ask you that what sort of degrees are being offered in Pakistan, like LLB degrees and LLM degrees, and are they foreign degrees or local degrees?
Actually, there are three kind of educational institutions which are imparting legal education in Pakistan. Public sector universities, private sector universities, and institutions which are imparting foreign education in Pakistan. We have a 5-year LLB program which is being run at the public sector universities and private sector universities. But at the same time, we have a London University program, which is the most popular one amongst the foreign universities program. This is a 3 years program. This is LLB honors program.
Sir, I would like to ask that are these degrees being regulated under any laws in Pakistan?
We have Bar Councils Act in Pakistan. And this is the legislation which lays basis that we have regulators. Regulators are Pakistan Bar Council and HEC, which control the mushroom growth of law colleges sometimes. Like they are the ones who provide the basis in the form of Bar Council Rules 2015, which are the rules which are to be followed if you want to have a new institution in place. So they grant them the affiliating status, they grant them the degree conferring status, they grant them the permission to run programs. Because of this act, which was originally in place, we had so many problems. Regulators were not able to control the legal education as such. And resultantly, there were two basic problems. One, substandard legal education. And then the institutions which were imparting legal education, they were just mushrooming this market and all sort of institutions offering not up to the standard legal education.
So what you're trying to say is that the legal development in Pakistan has been dealt in the courts.
Yes.
And this is how like they have been trying to raise the standards through the courts, not like themselves through the bars.
They failed, and actually they went to the Supreme Court themselves. A petition was filed titled Pakistan Bar Council versus Federation of Pakistan, and this was the first intervention Supreme Court did. Pakistan Bar Council went to them that we have not been able to control the legal education. Resultantly, there was long drawn arguments before the Supreme Court, and they formed a committee. They called it task force to suggest ways and means how legal education can be regulated in Pakistan. And incidentally, I was member of that task force, which was headed by Justice Nasir Aslam Zaid. and there were prominent members on the committee like Justice Mansoor Ali Shah. He was a practicing lawyer then. Mr. Humayun Hassan. We had Mr. Suhail Naqvi, the former Dean of LUMS. He was representing HEC. We were in the process of suggesting something to the Supreme Court as such. So Supreme Court will be asking the Pakistan Bar Council to and HEC to act upon those suggestions. Meanwhile, the lawyers' movement started, and this judgment was not, I would say, fully implemented as such. And meanwhile, Pakistan Bar Council.
If you talk about this judgment, this was passed in 2018. I was also party to that, so I totally understand what you're saying because I was part of those proceedings. But what do you think? How the legal education was being regulated before 2018 when that judgment was not in place?
Sorry for interjecting. Actually, I was not referring to this judgment of 2018. I am referring to the judgment which was given by Supreme Court, headed by a bench by Justice Tasadduq Jilani Sahab.
All right.
And he gave this verdict, and we were in the process of suggesting how we can regulate and improve legal education in Pakistan, how we can raise the standards of the institutions when this lawyers movement started. And as a result of this judgment, a new Bar Council rules 2015 came into being, and this was in obedience to the directions given by the Supreme Court. We came up with two-fold suggestions as far as Bar Council rules are concerned. One, there will be only one 5-year program, and then there will be a bar entrance exam, which was being conducted by NTS, and a couple of exams were held. But this action was challenged in Lahore High Court, that this 5-year program was stayed by the Lahore High Court, and at the same time, this bar entrance exam was also stayed. So, as a result of this judgment passed by the Lahore High Court now, Pakistan Bar Council went to Supreme Court yet another time. And this time Supreme Court also took a suo motu notice. And they formed a structural reform committee, and they formed 5 judicial commissions at the provincial levels, one for Supreme Court as well. And they gave them this task of suggesting how we can arrest this declining state of legal education, how we can lay standards for good educational institutions, what should be the affiliation criteria, what are the parameters on which you grant affiliations, what are the parameters for faculty, what are the parameters for setting the curriculum, and what will be the criteria for entrance to the bar, entrance to the law school. And then it was suggested also that we should have equivalence course for all those students who are getting foreign education. And on the basis of like 29 meetings in which best of the best minds of the country were on board, the bar councils themselves, these committees themselves, which had the representation from HEC as well, made suggestions to the Supreme Court, and on the basis of that, Supreme Court gave this landmark judgment, which was authored by Justice Umar bin Dayal. Bench was headed by Justice Saqib Nisar, and Justice Ijazul Hasan was also a member of this bench. I had the honor of being amicus curiae and member of this structural reform committee. As a result of this judgment, 19 points were thrashed, and 19 things were to be done by different institutions. But as a result of this judgment, unfortunately I have to say, this judgment was violated. This judgment was flouted, and sometimes this judgment was not acted upon. And I will say, some areas we were able to improve things, but in some areas it was to the detriment of the ordinary people of Pakistan who wanted to get a good quality legal education. So much so that 112 educational institutions which were imparting substandard legal education, they were halted and they were banned from imparting legal education. I'm very sorry to say it that almost all institutions are now again working. The ratio which was set up was 100 students to 5 faculty members. So this was applied across the board, and all institutions were just given 100 seats. With 100 seats, I believe no institution is viable. Resultantly, the fee of the legal profession has increased. Entrance to the law school requires that you pay a heavy fee. It is 3 times now, and foreign educations are coming, like offering all kind of degrees now, and resultantly being perturbed. I congratulate you that you are the one who filed a petition before the Supreme Court for implementation of this judgment. Now we are in the midst of suggesting to the Supreme Court. Supreme Court has in fact given myself a task to give suggestions how we can move forward, how we can implement this judgment, how we can for all times to come regulate it in a better way. And I have given suggestions in black and white that all right, institution have to act on its own. We ought to have an institution by the name of Directorate of Legal Education represented by all stakeholders.
That is something I would like to ask. So if we have to categorize this, we need to understand that there is a problem starting when a person is going to the law school, because when he's going to go to the law school, he's going to read a curriculum which needs to be updated. And then those law schools, they also need to be regulated properly. So after that, when they go to the profession, they also have to pass the LawGAT exam. And when they pass that exam, he also has to do his training. So all of this structure, do you really think that is going to be implemented properly even after we have filed that implementation petition?
The judgment itself has the answer. It was written in the judgment that there will be a Directorate on Legal Education with all stakeholders on board. When you say all stakeholders, to me, the stakeholders are the judiciary, the Pakistan Bar Council, Higher Education Commission, the public sector universities, private sector universities, institutions imparting foreign education in Pakistan, and people from the academia. They are the stakeholders. If we have them on board, and the judgment says it will have its own independent secretariat, and the government will also be there, like Attorney General, Law Minister should be there, and one judge nominated by the Supreme Court should be the ex officio chairman of this committee. If we have a full-fledged secretariat like that, we need not go to the courts again and again, because this is not their cup of tea. And then they'll be able to do all these things. For example, even trainings have not been started as yet, because judgment said that we ought to start this training. And to my mind, there should be academies at the provincial judicial academies and provincial bar councils. And they have these academies which are headed by perfect trainers, because this is a continuous effort.
So if you talk about the directorate, do you really think we have the law available which gives the directorate proper rules and to function? Or do we have to do any amendments in the existing law that we have right now?
To my mind, Bar Councils Act has to be amended, and we ought to have a full-fledged secretariat and the subject of legal education covered separately under that and supported by the relevant rules also. Then we will have the legislative backing, and we will take it outside the purview of political influence, outside the influence of one particular body, and all stakeholders will be there, and it's a liquid kind of thing. You can also revisit certain things which are not being implemented. You will be continuously doing training, you will be continuously inducting people to the bar, you will be having a concept of continuing legal education, you will be reviewing the curriculum also, and you will be affiliating new law schools, and you will be granting decree conferring status to the new institutions also under one heading. And then capacity building of the faculty is also required. We need to have textbooks also. So this should be a full-fledged directorate, and 2 areas are totally missing in spite of this judgment. One, the foreign institutions imparting education in Pakistan are not being regulated. This is one thing. Secondly, the judiciary. These provincial judicial academies or federal judicial academies, they are not under this ambit. To me, legal education is concerned with the lawyers and concerned with the judges also.
That's perfect. Sir, I would like to ask that the unacceptable behavior that is being portrayed in the society by lawyers, do you really think that the training is the need of an hour?
I couldn't agree more. We all need to be trained on ethics. We all need to be trained on the Bar Council rules. We need to be trained on new concepts also. So there is a frustration also. To be fair, these young lawyers are not being given a fair chance. For example, the seniors, they are not ready to contribute towards the young lawyers by having them a share of their fee, and they are not imparting them in trainings and legal education also. So we need to institutionalize it. If we institutionalize it, number of lawyers as compared to the number of cases that we have in Pakistan is, the ratio is, we require a lot of new lawyers, but we require good lawyers. When we have new laws also, new concepts are coming in, where civil procedure code has been amended, where ADR is coming in, where white collared crime is coming in. Yes. So we ought to train the lawyers
we need to
and
learn
the judges.
New laws.
Upbringing is not being done, they are not being trained, so fill in this gap. And then there is a gap between the theory and the practical aspects. So you need to apply law, and there's where you learn the skills. So imparting of skills, you are called to the bar in England or America only if you get training in these skills. So training is something which is a must. And when I say training and learning new concepts, this is not confined to the lawyers alone. We need to train the judges as well.
So it is such a vast topic, and we need several episodes in order to discuss this in detail. But thank you very much for coming today and giving us time. Hope we discuss this again, and request you to discuss this topic and suggest us that how can we improve the standards of legal education and bar councils in Pakistan. Thank you very much for coming to this show.
It is pleasure as always to be part of this channel.
So viewers, it was our little effort to produce something which is useful for the society. We'll come back with another guest and with the new legal issue. Thank you very much for watching.